What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the newest episode of the Believe in Oregon podcast, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm Zachary, Neel, flying solo this week. Jay Stu is off this week. He will be back on with me next week. Just going to touch on a couple of topics. It's been a couple weeks since I've been with you guys, so wanted to talk on some recent news in college football world. Maybe get into baseball a little bit. Just kind of talk some Oregon sports with you. We've got a fun show planned for next week when Jay Stu gets back, so be on the lookout for that. But as for today, like I said, we'll talk a little bit of offseason football, a little bit of postseason baseball for the Ducks. Let's start there on the diamond. Oregon is hosting a regional this weekend at PK Park for the second straight year. I believe it's their fifth time ever since the baseball program was reinstated. So they've got some good success there. They earned the number 13 seed after this past weekend. If you were watching baseball this past weekend, it was very exciting. Ended in a bit of a tough fashion. They fell to number one UCLA in the Big Ten championship game in the bottom of the 11th inning, no less, on a, dare I say, controversial hit by pitch call in the bottom of the 11th with 2 outs, bases loaded. So they hit by pitch walked the winning run home. So tough way to end it, but it was a good series, a good weekend. I should say series, good weekend. Got to the championship game, and they earned that. They earned the number 13 seed. They will be hosting for the NCAA tournament. You got the Eugene Regional coming. You got the Oregon State Beavers coming, the Washington State Cougars coming, and then the Yale Bulldogs. So a bit of Pac-12 flavor, which you love to see. It's still alive. It may be forgotten by most, but it is still alive. So it'll be fun to see those rivalries kind of renewed. I know that Oregon State fans, there's already a lot of talk, on social media, at least between Oregon and Oregon State fans that, there was pictures over the weekend that the Beavers were already starting to build grandstands out behind their, left field fence because they thought that they were going to be hosting a regional. There was projections that they would be, and Oregon got it instead. And I know that there's some frustration. You can get into RPI, you can get into canceled series and all of this stuff. It's as a rivalry goes, you're going to get a lot of nonsense and talk both ways, which I love. It's great fun. It's entertaining to get into. So I think it'll be a lot of fun this week. Oregon plays Yale first on Friday night. And at some point they will play Oregon State. We don't know exactly when, based on who wins the first games, yada yada. But when they do play, it will be entertaining nonetheless. I'm sure that PK Park is going to be packed. It's going to be loud. Oregon State's going to bring a lot of fans down I-5. It'll be a fun weekend in Eugene. So, looking at the betting odds for this, thanks to our presenting sponsor, FanDuel. Oregon is favored at minus 135 to come out of Eugene Regional. Oregon State follows at plus 145, Washington State at plus 1200, and then Yale at plus 1600. So Oregon, should get out of this. If they do, they would get to a super regional. They need some upsets ahead of them in order to host a super regional in Eugene. That doesn't seem likely at this point, but I think they're lined up with Texas in the bracket for if both teams advance, that's where they would go for their super regional. So we'll see, but it all starts this weekend. I looked at the College World Series odds on FanDuel Sportsbook too. Oregon actually is behind Oregon State in the College World Series odds, despite being ahead of them in the Eugene Regional odds. Oregon is plus 5,500 to win the College World Series. Oregon State plus 4,500. So that's a long way off. You got to get through this weekend first to even start talking about that. I would be curious to see how those odds potentially drop if Oregon potentially gets out of this weekend and into a super regional. So, like I said, first game is Friday night at 5 p.m. versus Yale. Oregon State and Washington State play earlier that day at noon. All games at PK Park. I saw online today that Oregon, the athletic department, announced that they bought out 1,200 tickets, over 1,200 tickets for the students for this weekend. I think it's I don't know how many are attributed to each game or how that all works, but I know that if you're a student listening to this, you can go online to the ticket website and get your tickets. I think it's via the ticketing app. So those tickets, or at least 1,250 of them, are on the house thanks to the Oregon Athletic Department. I know they're trying to pack PK Park and get a real home field environment there, which would be great. It is a double elimination bracket. So if Oregon doesn't win on Friday night, they've got a long road, but they're still alive. If they do win, they're into the semifinals, win that into the championship, and have the opportunity or the safety net of having to lose twice, being able to lose at least once and still be in it. So I'll be at these games. I'm incredibly excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. Baseball in Eugene, I mean, it's nowhere near the magnitude that football is at Oregon. The fan base is much larger for football, but it feels like over the past few years there's been some growing fans with the baseball team. I know there's been some frustrations as well with the way the last few seasons have ended. There's something about Oregon Ducks sports and not finishing well with these, but we'll hope that turns around this year and they can have a good weekend, at least in the regional, get onto a super regional. All right, let's turn to the gridiron. Not much Oregon Ducks stuff to talk right now. Again, I'll be back on next week with Jay Stu, and we're going to get a fun Oregon offseason topic. But right now, the recent talk has been all about the college football playoff and potential expansion. I say potential, but we all know what's going to happen at this point. They've been, ever since it was the BCS, they wanted to take it to 4 for a 14 playoff. As soon as it was 14 playoff, that wasn't enough. They had to take it to 12. Now we've had 2 years of 12, right? Yeah, 2 years of 12. And of course, they want to take it more. What it's going to expand to and when is the question. I don't think it can until 2028 would be the first year. I believe it's locked in for 2027. The Big Ten wants 24 teams. They came out last week after their meetings and said, everyone is on the same page. They want a 24-team playoff. The SEC is kind of a mixed bag right now. It came out today. I'm recording this on, Tuesday night, I believe it is. Greg Sankey, the commissioner, he wants 16-team playoff. A lot of different ADs in the SEC want either, I saw some for 20 game. Some people want 24 game. Someone wants to stay at 12. My view here is that everyone with a brain that's not in a position to benefit from it expanding wants it to stay at 12. It's kind of wild to me how it feels like the general audience is just being completely ignored here. I personally feel like you can't find a single person in your life or in the media who isn't directly benefiting, someone who works for Fox or for ESPN, who wants this thing expanded. It obviously it makes sense for someone at ESPN or someone at Fox or, people in these conferences who want it to expand because it means more money for the conferences. It means more stability for the coaches, who are actually part of this thing. And so it will happen. I mean, I can't say it any more clear than that. Like, expansion will happen. It's not going to be at 12 teams for long. What it goes to is up in the air. My vote personally would be 16. My real vote is to go down to 8. If I could create my perfect bracket, my perfect playoff, you go to 8. I think that's the right number of teams. I don't think, it's funny after this last year that I would say that you don't usually get teams outside of the top 8 who can win the championship. Then, of course, Miami got into the championship. I think they were the 10 seed, 11 seed. They were right around there. They were outside the top 8. I know that. But that's a bit of an anomaly. I think if you ran a 12-team playoff for 10 years, maybe once or twice you have a team lower than the 8 seed get into the championship or even win it. So I think 8 is good, but they would never go backwards. It's like the NBA going from an 82 game to a 72 game season. Like, yeah, everyone agrees that's what needs to happen. Everyone knows that's what would make the league better. It's not going to happen because they're not going to give money away. So It's going to expand. Again, my vote is 16. If you've got to add teams, I think 24 is just too many. I really don't like it. I think it's like with college basketball just opening up to what they go to 76 teams now. It's just too many. Like what are we doing? I don't like the idea. Like I said, I'm recording this on Tuesday. A lot of respect to Mike Elko, the Texas A&M head coach. He came out today at the SEC team meetings or conference meetings, whatever you want to, spring meetings, I believe it's called, sarcastically said that his vote would be to go to a 40-team playoff, because he said, then I won't get fired, which is, yeah, exactly. He's saying the quiet part out loud. People want this to, expand, because the coaches can say, hey, if I made the playoff, I'm likely not going to get fired. And if you have more playoff teams, yeah, it's a likelier chance that you're going to keep your job. He said, quote, none of us are answering for the good of the sport. We're answering for the good of ourselves. Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't put it better, than that. So I think it's, like I said earlier, it feels like everyone that is thinking about the good of the sport wants it to stay at 12, maybe expand to 16. I don't think 16 is the worst thing in the world. I think you can make it work. 24, in my opinion, is too much. I think at this point, just stop claiming that this is to improve the sport, because it's not. We aren't stupid. We're, college football fans. Yes, a lot of us are stupid. We aren't idiots, though. We know that, this isn't for the good of the sport, expanding it so you can get bigger TV deals, playoff bonuses for coaches who have that in the contract, not, the job stability that Elko is talking about. Like, yeah, if you coach a playoff team, if you go 8-4, 9-3 and get in the playoff, like, yeah, you're probably not getting fired. When in years past, a 14 playoff, 12-team playoff, if you don't get in, you're probably getting fired. Look at James Franklin this last year. He made the playoff 2 years ago, and then lost a couple of games this year and got fired. Like, that doesn't happen in an expanded playoff field. So it makes sense why these coaches want it and why these commissioners want it and all of that. I think it's just frustrating when a lot of the fans of all programs agree that this is a bad idea, and it's just, no one cares. I don't know. I think it'll be worse for the sport, but the sport does change and adapt, and I'm sure we'll adapt with it. But one thing is clear, there does not appear to be an end in sight. This is going to be, I think we're just past the midway point of the offseason right now. And this is going to continue on for at least the next several weeks, month, until we get into late July and August and can start actually thinking about the upcoming season once again, and talk about things that matter and not logistics over playoffs. So on that happy note, I'm going to start wrapping it up here. Just a short one today. Like I said, wanted to touch on some general news topics in baseball and football playoff. We'll be back on next week. Like I said, Jay Stu and I have a draft cooked up for the off season, kind of looking ahead at Oregon's season. Just a little teaser, kind of like what needs to go right for the season to turn out how we all hope it will. So be on the lookout for that. You can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. We'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.